Gotta get my drink. Hello everybody, my name is Katie and welcome to my channel. Today's video is going to be on the top 5 largest books that I've ever read or that I know that I have read, and whether they were worth their length, whether they were worth reading, and any critiques or praises that I have. I'm not doing a full review necessarily. I'm not going to be giving you really deep, in-depth plots or anything like that. Just basic ideas, basic concepts. Was it worth it? Was it not? Was it kinda? And why? The original video was supposed to be all of the tomes that I've read, so anything over 600 pages. However, that ended up being like 16 books. So I decided that 5 would be better, the top 5. If you are interested in me talking about those other 10, 11 books, let me know and I will make a video on them as well. So we're going to do these from shortest book to longest book, and we'll go right ahead and start. So the shortest book on this list is actually The Well of Ascension by Brandon Sanderson at 781 words. So, not short, but still short-ish in comparison to these other ones. This is the second book in the Mistborn trilogy, and is it worth its word count, or not word count, page count? Honestly, I would say yes. It's been a very long time since I've read this book. I've tried to reread Mistborn a few times, and I always get about 2/3 of the way through the first book, and then I realize that I'm very close to a scene, and I start getting very stressed out, and I can't continue it. Hi, kitty. So I can't really say too much about the second book as it has been so long, probably 5 or more years, but I do remember really enjoying it and actually liking it more than the first one. It didn't leave me feeling heavy like the first one did, which was very, very nice. And I don't remember there being a lot of lollygagging in the writing or too much just nonsense going on. Everything felt very, like it was moving, I guess is a good way to say it. So I would say, yeah, it's worth the 781 pages. I didn't read it physically, I listened to it, but still. The second shortest book in this list is the Sherlock Holmes, The Greatest Adventures of Sherlock Holmes by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. This includes all 4 short novels. This includes all 4 novels and 44 short stories. This clocks in at 989 pages. And is it worth the page count? In the sense of you get all of the stories, yes. In the sense of the actual writing, no. No Victorian or Edwardian book is worth the word count in them. None of them. I distinctly remember reading this, and there was a part in which Sherlock was explaining something, and Dr. Watson told him, "Would you get to the point?" And he was like, "Okay, yes, I'm getting, okay, fine." And then he spends another 2 pages talking about nothing. Anyway, but were they good? Yes, they were good, but no Victorian, no Edwardian, nothing written in the time period in when everybody was so long-winded that it took 8 years to tell one fact. Is it worth the word count? No. I am a little bit bitter about this though, because I was very intelligent and decided, I think it was literally a January, I was like, you know what? I'm going to read this entire thing this month because I'm a reader and I can do that. And when I tell you, I don't think I read another thing for like a year. I really don't think I did. I was brain dead after reading this. Number 3 on this list, and right in the middle, is The Wise Man's Fear by Patrick Rothfuss at 994 pages. And this one makes me sad because truly, no, this book is not worth all of the pages. unless we get a third book and it explains what the point of the second book was, it's really not even worth reading. I loved the book. It's entertaining, it's enjoyable, but it does not further the plot, as far as I can tell. It does not further the plot of the Kingkiller Chronicles. It pretty much goes in a circle where Kvothe, the main character, goes on an adventure and then comes back and is right back where he started at the beginning of the book before he goes on the adventure. And the adventure itself doesn't seem necessary. Truly, it doesn't. There are parts of the book that I really, really like, and I liked the book as a whole when I read it. However, thinking back on it, there are a lot of very unnecessary moments. And unless the third book comes out, which we don't even know if it's ever going to, and explains the point of the second book and what he was supposed to learn or do, I don't think that it was worth reading, even though it was enjoyable, in the sense that doesn't seem conducive to the story. On a pure entertainment standpoint, it still could probably have lost 100, maybe 200 pages and you'd have gotten the same thing. But yeah, this one makes me sad because I actually really did like the book. I don't think I would like it now if I read it again, if I'm being honest. I think I would still like The Name of the Wind, but I cannot say that I would like The Wise Man's Fear. Number 2 in our second longest book, which is one that I read not that long ago, is Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand. It has 1,078 pages. And this one, again, not worth all of the pages, but also very worth all of the pages. Let me explain. There is nothing in this story that is pointless. Unlike Sherlock Holmes, where a lot of the talking seems pointless, or like The Wise Man's Fear, where there's whole sections that don't even seem to be necessary to its own plot line, let alone the story as a whole. There's nothing actually in Atlas Shrugged that is useless to the rest of the story. Is it necessarily interesting or good? Not always. There are parts that are just talking. It's just dialogue. It's just a monologue for 3, 4, 5 pages, but it has something to do with the story. It's gonna come up again later. It's not something that's just written to be written and then move on. Everything in Atlas Shrugged has a very pinpointed necessity, if that makes sense. Atlas Shrugged is extremely interesting. In fact, the only reason that I read the entire thing was because I was fascinated by the point of the book. And so while yes, it's worth the 1,000 pages because everything in it is intentional, it's also not worth the 1,000 pages because while it's all interesting, it's not all necessary. There's parts of it that you're like, yeah, it's gonna come up again. There's a point to it. But is that point necessary to the whole story? Maybe, but you could have gotten there a lot faster. So in that concept as well, it's not worth the 1,000 pages. A lot of people really hate how long it is and how drawn out it is. That's why this one to me is the most complicated, because yes and no. It's worth 1,000 pages because everything in it has a point to it, and it's fascinating to watch the strings go, but it also is not worth it because it's over 1,000 pages and you probably could have cut down 400 of them if you had just made less strings. I could go on a long tangent about Atlas Shrugged, and I'm not going to because it's going to be nonsensical and it would really just be me talking. And like I said, I'm not going to be doing like deep dives into these books, so I'm going to go ahead and move on before I get too hung up on it and start going on a tangent, and tell you what the largest book I've ever read is. And this comes to no surprise to me at all, and it is by far one of my favorite stories of all time. And it is The Lord of the Rings by J.R.R. Tolkien. This book has 1,178 pages, so almost exactly 100 pages more than Atlas Shrugged. And it's pretty much a joke in the Lord of the Rings fandom, whatever, that books are stupidly long for no reason. He was describing every leaf, every tree, every pond, just on and on and on for pages. There's some songs in this book that are 3 pages long, that you can't even read because they're in Elvish, like that kind of thing. And I do agree, it definitely is way too long, with way too many explanations of trees and grass and nature. But at the same time, I find it very interesting that he could see it so well that he knew what every tree looked like. He knew what all the grass looked like. He could pinpoint down to the blade which meadow was which just by thinking about it, obviously. But the detail is what I think is fascinating. Is it bothersome to read? Yes. You end up just skipping pages when you're reading Lord of the Rings. So no, it's not worth the 1,178 pages. But is it worth reading? Yes. If you're okay with reading that kind of thing. It is my favorite story. Like, one of my most favorite stories of all time. Even though it's long and wordy and unnecessary with its descriptions, there is nothing that is quite as close to my heart. Or maybe 1 or 2 things that are as close to my heart as Lord of the Rings is. So, to answer the question of, is it worth the 1,000+ pages? Or should it be 1,000+ pages? No, it shouldn't be 1,000+ pages. Is it worth reading even though it is 1,000+ pages? Yes. Yes, it is. This is another thing that I could go on a very passionate tangent about. Not quite as much as Atlas Shrugged, because truly it would just be me blubbering and not saying anything at all. But I do love these. So those were the 5 longest books that I have, to my knowledge, ever read. And it was a majority a mix. Wise Man's Fear is a no, just because a lot of it was unnecessary, and until we get the 3rd book, the 2nd book seems in and of itself pretty unnecessary. However, it's entertaining, so you can still enjoy reading those pages. Sherlock Holmes is a no, and just a kind of blunt no, because while the stories are good, they make you feel brain dead when you're done with them. Mistborn was a ringing yes, because I loved the 2nd book. It was my favorite out of the first 2. As I've not read the 3rd one, I can't say it's my favorite, but there we go. And the last 2, Atlas Shrugged and Lord of the Rings, were a mix, because there's a lot of reasons why they should be as long as they are, and a lot of reasons why they shouldn't. Which should have been kind of expected on my end. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope I didn't bore you too much, and until next time, I will see you later. Have a good evening, afternoon, or morning, depending on when you're watching this, and I will see you next time. Happy reading. Bye!